When you strip away the politics, the excuses, the bad luck, and the headlines, there are really only 3 reliable ways that people end up poor. And although the details look different from person to person, almost every financial collapse can be traced back to one of 3 paths. So today we're breaking down all 3, how they work, why they're so common, and most importantly, how to recognize them before they become permanent. Welcome to Alux. Number 1, borrow it. Spend future money before you earn it. Now, the fastest way to end up poor is to sell pieces of your future before you get there. Most people don't think about debt that way. Debt feels like access. Access to a better car, a larger house, a renovated kitchen, a vacation that would otherwise take years to save for. The future arrives immediately while the cost gets pushed into the background. That's what makes the arrangement so attractive. You get the reward first and deal with the consequences later. Modern economies are built around this idea. Walk into a dealership and nobody wants to talk about the total price of a vehicle. No, the conversation immediately shifts to monthly payments. A $70,000 truck becomes $950 a month. A luxury SUV becomes $1,200 a month. The number shrinks psychologically even though the obligation remains exactly the same. The purchase feels affordable because the cost has been stretched across time. The same thing happens everywhere: furniture, electronics, vacations, home renovations. Nearly every product can now be financed, leased, subscribed to, or purchased in installments. Entire industries have learned that people are more comfortable buying payments than buying products. The object being sold is often secondary. What really matters is whether the monthly number feels manageable. The problem is, every payment takes a small piece of tomorrow with it. One payment doesn't matter much, neither do 2 or 3. But over time, obligations begin piling on top of one another. The car payment joins the mortgage joins the credit card balance joins the personal loan. Eventually, a significant percentage of future income has already been assigned before the paycheck even arrives. This is why household debt has exploded across much of the developed world. In the US alone, total household debt now exceeds $18 trillion. That's not simply a story about irresponsible people making bad decisions. No, it is evidence of a financial system constantly encouraging consumption today in exchange for earnings tomorrow. The hidden damage isn't the debt itself. It's what debt prevents you from doing. Every dollar used to finance consumption is a dollar that cannot be used to acquire assets. Every payment flowing toward yesterday's purchases is capital that never gets the opportunity to grow. Most people focus on the interest they're paying. The larger cost is the ownership they are not building. This creates a strange financial illusion. A person earning $150K a year can feel permanently stressed because most of their cash flow is committed already. Another person earning less might feel far more secure because their future income hasn't already been promised away. Income matters, but control over income matters even more. Notice what happens during economic uncertainty. The people carrying large financial obligations suddenly become very fragile. A layoff, a recession, an illness, or an unexpected expense can force difficult decisions almost immediately. The lifestyle looked sustainable when everything was going well. The moment conditions change, the margin for error disappears. The wealthy use debt too, sometimes very aggressively. The difference is in what they're buying. Borrowing money to acquire an apartment building, a business, or a productive asset creates a completely different outcome than borrowing money for consumption. That's why the road to poverty often looks surprisingly comfortable at the beginning. Eventually, people discover that their biggest financial problem isn't low income, it's that too much of their future has already been sold. The paycheck arrives, sure, but large portions of it are already spoken for before they have a chance to decide where the money should go. And that's the real danger of borrowing against the future. The money isn't the first thing you lose. The first thing you lose is flexibility, then options, then opportunity. By the time the financial consequences become visible, the decisions that created them are often years in the past. Number 2, rent it. Spend your life building assets you don't own. Now, the second way people end up poor is far more respectable than the first. There's no financial collapse, no reckless spending, no maxed out credit cards. In fact, from the outside, it often looks exactly like success. You get a good education, build valuable skills, show up consistently, earn promotions, increase your income, become reliable enough that companies trust you with more responsibility and larger decisions. Everything appears to be moving in the right direction. Then one day you discover you've spent 20 or 30 years helping to build valuable assets that belong to someone else. This is one of the strangest features in modern economies. The people creating enormous amounts of value are not always the people capturing most of it. Walk into a successful company and you'll find talented people everywhere. Engineers building products used by millions, sales teams bringing in revenue, managers coordinating thousands of moving parts, specialists solving problems worth millions of dollars. The business could not function without them. Yet, the largest financial rewards often flow somewhere else entirely. They flow toward ownership. When a company grows from 10 million in revenue to 100 million, employees may receive raises, bonuses, or promotions. But the owners receive something entirely different. They receive the increase in value of the business itself. That's where fortunes are usually created, not through income, through appreciation. A founder who owns 50% of a company doesn't need their salary to increase tenfold in order to become dramatically wealthier. No, if a company becomes 10 times more valuable, their net worth rises automatically. The same thing happens with shareholders, private business owners, commercial real estate investors, and anyone who controls productive assets. The underlying asset grows. Their wealth grows with it. Labor doesn't work that way, though. This is why so many people feel financially stuck despite doing everything they were told to do. They followed the formula, they worked hard, they became valuable, they increased their income, yet every year starts looking remarkably similar to the year before it, because the entire system still depends on their continued participation. The moment they stop working, the machine stops producing. The irony is, most people understand this intuitively when they look at someone else's life. They see a landlord collecting rent, a business owner collecting profits, or a shareholder benefiting from a company's growth and immediately recognizing the difference. The challenge is that building ownership often requires sacrificing consumption in the present, which is far less exciting than upgrading a lifestyle. As a result, many people become increasingly successful without becoming meaningfully wealthier. The paycheck gets larger, the house gets larger, the expenses get larger, the responsibilities get larger. Yet the underlying financial structure remains unchanged. Income comes in and income goes out. Everything still depends on the next paycheck. Building the motivation and drive to break out of this cycle is not easy, but with tools like the Alux app, it becomes much easier to accomplish. Through our daily coaching sessions and expert-led mentorship collections, you'll find yourself leveling up way faster than your friends and colleagues. Start your free trial today at Alux.com/app, and once you see the value inside, come back and scan this QR code to get 25% off your annual membership. I'll see you on the inside, but in the meantime, let's get back to it. Number 3, inflate it. Turn every raise into a new expense. Now, the third way people end up poor is surprisingly frustrating because it often happens while their income is rising. They get their promotion, then they upgrade the apartment, they get a raise, then they upgrade the car, they get a bonus, then they book the vacation. A few years later, they're earning more money than they've ever imagined, yet somehow they still feel financially constrained. Now, this is one of the strangest traps in personal finance because it disguises itself as progress. From the outside, everything appears to be improving. The house is larger, the neighborhood is better, the car is newer, the restaurants are nicer. Every visible indicator suggests financial success. What nobody sees is that the gap between income and expenses never actually widens. That's the gap where wealth is built. A person earning $60,000 a year has limited room to invest. That's understandable. A person earning $250,000 per year should have significantly more flexibility. Yet many don't. Economists call this lifestyle inflation, and we've talked about it plenty before. As income rises, people become accustomed to a higher baseline of living. What once felt luxurious eventually feels normal. The upgraded apartment becomes the standard. Business class becomes expected. The expensive restaurant becomes routine. Human beings adapt remarkably quickly, especially to improvement. The excitement fades, the costs remain. This creates a treadmill effect that traps people at income levels that would have seemed unimaginable just a few years earlier. Instead of using higher earnings to purchase freedom, they use higher earnings to purchase maintenance. More money is required each month simply to preserve the lifestyle they've built. The difference becomes obvious during periods of uncertainty. When a recession hits, a company restructures, or an industry slows down, the individual with low fixed expenses can adapt quickly. The individual carrying a large financial footprint, well, they suddenly find themselves under a lot of pressure. The same income that once felt abundant now feels necessary. That's a dangerous shift because it changes the purpose of work. Instead of working to create opportunities, people begin working to protect commitments they've already made. And the irony is that many of these purchases are intended to signal success. A larger house, a luxury vehicle, designer brands, exclusive experiences. Each one communicates a message to the outside world. But wealth and status, they're not the same thing. Status is what people see. Wealth is what remains after the audience leaves. Some of the wealthiest people in the world live far below what their balance sheets would allow because they understand a simple principle. Every recurring expense creates a future claim on income. Before a dollar can be invested, saved, or deployed into an opportunity, it must first satisfy the lifestyle that's already being constructed. Over time, those claims accumulate. This is why some high earners remain trapped despite earning several times more than the average person. Their income grew, but their freedom did not. Every financial victory was immediately converted into a larger monthly obligation. Eventually, they reach a point where reducing their lifestyle feels more painful than increasing their income. That's when the trap closes, because earning more money is not the same as getting richer. The person who earns an additional $50,000 and invests it has changed their future. The person who earns an additional $50,000 and spends it has changed their lifestyle. Those outcomes might look similar for a few years, but after a few decades, they look nothing alike. That's why lifestyle inflation is such an effective poverty machine. It doesn't make people feel poorer. It makes them feel richer right up until the moment they realize they've spent years increasing their standard of living without increasing their financial independence. And by that point, the lifestyle they've built often requires them to keep running just to stay in the same place. All right, thanks for watching, Aluxer. That's a wrap for today. We'll see you back here next time. Until then, take care.